Lisa, welcome back. Thank you for joining my Parents Around the World Summit. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you for inviting me. I am really excited about this. I think that it's going to make such a big difference, and we need more of this.
Yes, I think this is something that is so close to so many people's hearts, right? Especially in the month of May and June, where you have Mother's Day, your Father's Day. So the theme definitely seems to be about family. But today you're going to speak about healing from personal trauma and how it impacted yourself as a parent and your family, right?
Yes, 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 I am. Yeah, I my childhood abuse started way back. That picture behind me is me about 3 or 4 years old, and it started as far back as that. So it definitely had a profound effect on me. And the sad part of it is as I got older, it got worse. So I went into my adult life and into my first marriage in 100% survival mode, victim mindset, and it deeply impacted, of course, me, but it also impacted my family and all my relationships. And so, yeah, it was quite a challenging life for a long time.
Looking back, what was something that you learned about yourself and that you're proud that you're able to overcome during that time?
I'm really proud of my healing journey. I'm really proud of it. For so many years, there wasn't any kind of modalities or any kind of, deep trauma therapy that there is today. So I did a portion of my healing by myself, on my own, and kept progressing. It was very slow. It wasn't until I actually got into some trauma therapy myself that it escalated. But I'm really proud of the fact that I stuck it out all those years, even though sometimes it was pretty rough and pretty lonely, actually.
Loneliness is such a difficult thing that a lot of people deal with and a lot of people struggle with. And sometimes people will avoid certain outcomes so they don't feel lonely. How difficult was the loneliness period for you?
Ooh, boy, it was pretty bad. It was tough. It also fed a belief that I had about abandonment and about nobody loving me, right? I really had a deep, deep belief because I was told at a very young age that nobody loved me, and I 100% believed it. So you could imagine going into an adult life in survival mode with a victim mindset, believing that nobody loves me, believing that everybody abandons me. You could imagine how lonely and desperate, honestly, how desperate that was.
When you speak of the impact that it had on you and then your relationships, especially not feeling love, not hearing that you love, and not having love, how did that impact your relationship in your adulthood when you were trying to find love, but maybe you didn't have a base for what love was?
Oh, such a great question. I honestly, when I took on that belief that nobody loved me, I was on a mission to find somebody to love me. And I had attachment, really an insecure attachment style. So I was desperate. I was on a mission to find somebody that loved me, and I would take anybody, honestly. And my first marriage, we both came together with a lot of issues, so it wasn't just me and it wasn't just him. But as soon as that marriage ended, I was off to the next one because I didn't have any value without having somebody that loved me. So you can imagine, you know, how lonely that is.
The search for love leads so many people astray and so many people into the wrong arms,
Oh, yes.
as they would say, right? What obstacles did you face when you're trying to find the right person, the right type of love that maybe you always wanted, or at least that you're always searching for?
So I this is my third marriage and it's the most successful one and it's the healthiest one. So yes, yes, I did it right finally. And again, with the first marriage, we were young, we both came together with our own stuff. What it led me to in my second marriage, and very quickly, was I went into a full-on narcissistic marriage. And I didn't know at the time that that's what it was. Just the behavior was so crazy. And I had done enough healing to know that his behavior was really bizarre. And I would even tell him so. And even got to the point where I realized I need to get out of this. Like, I don't know what I did, but I need to get out of this. So it led me to some really unhealthy relationships. Unfortunately, he passed we were married for a year and a half. Um, and then I had to go deep and I had to go, what happened? Why did I end up in that relationship? And I went into therapy and, came out of it, and now I'm married to the love of my life.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Let me ask you, when it came to finding this person that you're with now, did you know what you wanted finally out of the type of relationship that you're seeking?
I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want. I literally, there were some, because my list before was always what I wanted. And I didn't have it didn't matter what I didn't want on the list because I didn't even know what I didn't want. I just knew what I wanted. So the difference is in with this third marriage and final marriage is going into it with what I do want, what's important to me, and what I don't want.
If you were to compare Lisa back then to Lisa today,
Mm.
how do you think these two Lisas would be raising the type of family or creating the type of family that they want?
So the Lisa today would be very different. It really would be very different. I would be in a much healthier marriage because that's so important for the kids. The kids need to have stability. And it makes sense why, unfortunately, my son grew up in an unstable home was because I grew up in an unstable home. And I'll say this, I have apologized to him. I recognize my behavior and I have apologized to him. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought when I did that because that's kind of a heart issue there. But it's just it's very different how I would raise now. Definitely, the communication would be different. Because I realized I held so much inside. And we need to be authentic and we need to have a voice. That's one thing I didn't have.
How were you able to obtain the voice that you have today when you needed it the most, probably throughout your life?
I know that, it was really interesting because it was in 2016 when I finally realized, because I didn't know all those years that I didn't have a voice. And what made me realize it is I was just having a conversation with my then boyfriend, who's now my husband, and we weren't having an uncomfortable conversation at all, but there was something I was going to say and it wouldn't come out. It literally got stuck in my throat. And he realized at the time, he's like, "You can say it." And I said, "It literally won't come out." And he said, "Well, let's just wait and see what happens." So he's been very patient. He's been my safe space, which allows me to have the voice. And I just, once I realized that, I started working on just going ahead, as uncomfortable it is, and saying what I need to say. And it's made a huge difference. As a matter of fact, there was a situation about a year ago where I was having an uncomfortable conversation and I needed to take a break. I stepped away and I could literally feel my throat closing up. And I realized I needed to say what I needed to say because I was holding it in. It was really interesting.
I remember hearing that some people, when they grew up in their family, because they didn't see healthy or even any form of communication that was positive between their parents, they
Yeah.
grew up thinking that's how it is, right? Like
Yeah.
they would close up because as a child, you don't, in a lot of sense, have the authority to say anything. You can't say, "Hey, dad, you're screwing up. Hey, mom, I don't like that." Usually the child has to accept it because of their placement in the family. And then they grow up thinking that's going to be normal. And to your point, right? Like when they want to
Right.
have an uncomfortable conversation, it closes up. How do I say this? It bothers me. I want to express it. My partner's asking me, but I just can't do it. What tips would you share with people who are starting their families or even ones who have existing families when it comes to communicating what you're feeling and listening to what the person is saying?
The listening is so important as well as having a voice. And, the most important thing is that you have a safe space because you're not going to feel comfortable sharing your voice in a place that's not safe. So it needs to be a safe place. And, I did have to learn how to express my voice because, when you first start, I had a lot of anger. So I could be very vicious. And you can ask my ex husband. I mean, I could be very, very vicious. I'm not proud of that. But I had to learn to, the most important thing is giving yourself space, especially when you're triggered, because when you're triggered, things are going to come out of your mouth that are not appropriate. And so you need the space to realize, okay, I need a minute. I need to, get myself calmed down and work through this before I say something. That has been key for me. And then in that moment, in that space, you can articulate in your head how you want to present this message so that it's not you upset screaming, it's you calm and being able to clearly articulate what it is you need to say.
How does that benefit your family now that you've learned those skills?
Ho ho ho, so much so, so much so. I can have real honest conversations. It's not just me being able to voice it, but I have family that listens. They listen to what I'm saying and they acknowledge it. And so that's really important too. But that's a dynamic that we had to create, and it was created over time. And it's going to be uncomfortable and there's going to be awkward conversations. But as long again as you create a safe space, and that is no yelling, no screaming, no, losing your temper. If you feel yourself getting upset, the best thing you can say is, "Can I just have a minute?" and step away.
How does it feel now to be a person who grew up and spent a good portion of her life not being heard to now you're completely being heard?
Well, I can tell you I'm a lot less frustrated. I spent many years being frustrated because it was, I need you to hear me and you don't understand. You just don't understand. That was something. And now it's really nice. Now I don't just give my voice to anybody who's around me, because if you don't want to hear me, I'm not going to give you my voice. I'm selective of where I share my voice, how I share my voice, what I share. Um, because I'm in control of this.
And then what are three myths? Or it's not three myths. So let's just open it fully up, right? What are some misconceptions that you want to clarify when it comes to healing from your trauma and its impact on the family unit?
Well, it is never too late. It is never too late to start your healing process, and you are not broken. I have never used that term on myself, and I refuse to use it on anybody else. You're not broken. What happened to you happened to you. I promise you that you can heal. It is a journey, it's a lifelong journey, but you can create the life that you really desire in your heart. Because there's a myth, there's so many. I work a lot with women, and there's so many women that think that they're broken. Broken. It's just I'm too far gone. Too far gone. It's too, or I'm too old. I have worked with women as late as like 75 years old. And this one particular precious woman had never shared her story ever, not even with her husband of 50 something years. And she went through my workshop and she was able to start her healing process. And the rest of her life was so much better than it was before. So it's never too late. Yes.
And then as we close, Lisa, I'm going to give you three wishes. These are things that you
Mm.
can wish for that people knew. Aladdin's lamp or the genie's lamp. I forget who owns the lamp, but I'm going to give you their lamp. What are three things you wish people knew about their personal healing journey from their childhood to their adulthood and why?
Well, one thing is that your healing journey is a lifelong event. So, you know, that is something that people don't realize. People think that they can get healed. They can have measures of healing, but you're on your healing journey for the rest of your life. Okay. So I wish everybody knew that, because that can create a lot of frustration. So I wish people really knew that. What's something else I wish people knew? You know, there is a belief out there that people don't think they can heal. And I was talking about that earlier, and I want to emphasize that again. No matter what happened to you, no matter how deep it went, no matter how long it went, you can heal. So I wish people knew that. I really do. What's a third thing? It's all going to deal with the healing, but I wish people knew that you can create that beautiful life. The way that you started isn't the way that you need to end. You can. I've done it. And actually, and I'm not bragging, but my life is far better than I ever imagined. And I'm not anybody special. I'm not anybody special.